and welcome to the Nutrition Digest podcast. We are your hosts and registered dietitians. I'm Alicia Kugler.
And I'm Tara Valenti.
And I'm Shivani.
Shivani, our special guest. So I'm very excited to have Shivani on board. So I met Shivani in 2024 when I stumbled upon her profile. I was looking at private practice dietitians and she came up. And the thing that really resonated when I kind of came across her profile online was that she really focused on the holistic approach to health. She had a mental health practitioner, mindfulness coach on her team. She was focusing on movement as well as having a good team of dietitians on board. So she is the founder of Right Food Choice, so nutrition and wellness practice. It's in Michigan, actually. But she has a huge online presence for her clinic and she runs a lot of group programs. So it's a little bit about Shivani. Actually, I know you socialize as gut health, metabolic health, insulin resistance, PCOS, personalized nutrition, improving the relationship with food. There's lots that you focus on. And I know I've been involved in some of the different programs you've run, more from the fitness lens. Shivani, I'll let you tell a little bit more about yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Alicia and Tara, for having me in this podcast. I'm so excited to be here and I have fun working with you, Alicia. I don't know what would I do without you because I think it's fitness and nutrition both go hand in hand. You cannot either or. But I have been practicing for last 20 years now, 25 actually. And I do more of, I'm called as Good Gut Dietitian on the social media platforms, but I focus on gut health, inflammation, metabolic health, hormone health, especially for women, because it's not just food that's controlling all our life. There are a lot of other factors that are impacting our health. And that's what I like to talk about when I talk about holistic, more integrative approach to nutrition and wellness. And that's what my whole motto is, to talk about the overall health.
I know today, our big focus is going to be a little bit more on the blood glucose side of things, or the CGMs, looking at kind of a non-diabetic population. I know, Tara, you and I were talking about this before, that we've dealt with different clients and heard a lot about it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely have worked with people who are using a CGM to help better monitor their blood sugar. I would say the population that I work with the most is pre-diabetic, trying to avoid becoming diabetic, and then some athletes as well, which is a unique population, which we'll dive into in a little bit. But I want to talk a little bit about why blood sugar matters for everybody, not just people who are pre-diabetic. Maybe their A1C is a little bit higher than they want it to be, but for all of us who are trying to better our health and pay closer attention to all of the little details that'll help us feel better throughout the day. So I was wondering, Shivani, if you could touch on that a little bit.
Absolutely. First of all, the biggest, I would say, myth now in today's day and age is blood sugar balance is only for people who have diabetes. It's for everyone. It's for metabolic health, specifically if you are trying to lose weight or if you are, as you mentioned, pre-diabetic and get your numbers in control. Blood sugar balance is important for overall health. So let's start with, everybody's trying to lose weight. Yes, it's important for weight loss. It's important for metabolic health. It's important for cardiometabolic health because guess what? More blood sugars you have, more body fat percentage you're going to accumulate if it is not being utilized. And most importantly, when we look at the normal hemoglobin A1C, what it's not testing, usually hemoglobin A1C is the marker most doctors and practitioners use to identify whether the patient is diabetic or pre-diabetes. But say if their range is normal, the important thing to look at that when we do the CGM data is glucose variability, like how the blood sugar is swinging throughout the day. Is it going just up and down curve, or it's a steady curve? And that's what affects their metabolic health. And identify the factors, the bigger pictures that we can see as why they are not losing weight or why they are not burning fat. Versus, they're trying everything. They're going to the gym, they're exercising, they're eating well. So they're thinking, but if their blood sugar is swinging like a roller coaster ride throughout the day, they're not going to lose weight. Another thing that I have seen, their energy levels. Have you ever seen those people, a lot of time, they wake up in the morning groggy? Honestly, I have seen it on the CGM data for many women. They are not eating enough actually. Sometimes they need to eat at night to make sure their blood sugar doesn't drop. So if their blood sugar is dropping in the morning to very low, they are going to feel groggy. And I had few patients like that, and I actually had to tell them, please eat. Please eat. And Alicia, we have a recent client of ours who have lost about 40 pounds, and you actually added one meal to her regimen. It was 500 calories extra, and she started to lose more weight. So a lot of time, all these factors in our mind, we are thinking eat less, that's only going to give us results. So eat less is also not good. So when we do in the CGM data, we can actually see how they're fluctuating throughout the day. We can also see their cravings. When you're craving something, whether you're hungry, whether you're angry, whether you're upset, because you can actually see in the data. I have my clients actually write it. Were you anxious? Were you mad at somebody? Were you upset? And it's so funny. We did it at our home, and I had my husband do it. So we were just like having fun with the CGM data. So anytime you were upset or angry, you could see the blood sugar go up and down. And also you can vouch for it, Alicia, maybe, or either one of you can tell like how your blood sugars are affected by exercise and how you can see that on the CGM data, like depending upon what kind of exercise you're doing.
So I do a lot of endurance exercise, and I've worn a CGM while doing endurance stuff. And I just think it's really interesting how the blood sugar will go up as you're exercising because your body needs the fuel. And so your blood sugar rises, and that is startling to people when they first realize it. They're like, what's going on? They think, oh, my body should be taking up glucose. My blood sugar should be going down. But when I exercise, my blood sugar goes up consistently. And for some people, it does it much more than others, which I think that variability is very interesting too. And I think it has an impact on how you feel and how you perform as well.
Yes, I agree. And I think also like for myself, a little bit different than Tara in that I do like multiple different sports as a triathlete. And I know for me, depending what modality I'm doing, I'll either go high or low. So like for me, running usually makes my blood sugars go up. Swimming, on the other hand, doesn't matter the intensity of the swimming that I'm doing, I always go low. And it can even be a short swim. I always end up going hypo at the end of my swim. Doesn't matter what I eat before. And like that for me, it's just kind of like, I have to be really, really aware of like when I'm eating before and like, just kind of like noticing that. And like even strength training, like for some people, if you're doing like higher intensity strength training or higher intensity interval training, you might see the blood sugar spike, which can be quite alarming to a lot of individuals if they're starting to use a CGM. But then it's trying to watch the trend after the exercise is done. When you've done the rest of the day, what is actually happening with your sugars in the long term?
Yeah, it's very important to see their meal pattern as well. Like today I had a client and I have been asking her to do the CGM because she's not diabetic. She's on anti-inflammatory plan. She's working on her gut health, which she's doing great with. All her symptoms are gone. But now her goal is to lose weight. And I have been telling her, yes, you're eating an anti-inflammatory diet, but you don't know the portion size or the macros that you have in that particular meal, how it's affecting your blood sugar. Because if your insulin is not functioning fine, if you're insulin resistance, if you're not insulin sensitive, then definitely you are going to see that you are in more fat storing mode than the fat burning mode. And she just had the CGM for 2 weeks and she already lost 3 pounds. So when we talk about looking at the data, I always call ourselves, all my metabolic health dietitians, we are data-driven dietitians. We work with the data, and the same data, when clients see that, they themselves know, hey, I need to do this. This is, spiking. Maybe I need to change my diet, because I already provide them with the tools beforehand and what to expect. So they know how to change their meals right then and there. So they can see in the next meal how they can manage their blood sugar levels. And your sleep also, your sleep can affect your blood sugar levels. So all these factors, when we talk about sleep, stress, hunger, exercise, food, there's so many things we can gauge and change and help our clients with, so that they see better results with already what they are doing, and they feel confident in, hey, I got this.
Is there specific populations where you see that blood sugar regulation plays a major role in managing the condition, or that blood sugar variability is a little bit more of a factor in their overall health?
Definitely. What I have seen, I work with a lot of women, and what I have seen, stress higher cortisol levels are way bigger factors. And women with PCOS, I can see a huge difference because these are moms. They have kids. They're going out working, doing so many things. And other than that, like they have different stressors of life. And when they show me their data, like, hey, I'm eating so well, I'm exercising, they're doing most women, they're doing everything right. How come they're not losing weight? And one reason is higher cortisol level. Backing it up, higher stress leading to higher cortisol levels. I always tell them, you're being chased by a tiger, but you're not running anywhere. So you're not burning that fuel. Cortisol is trying to push all the sugar into your system so you can run faster. But right now it's all in your head. In this, in this world, today's day and age, we are not running anywhere. So we are not burning that sugar cortisol is trying to push and give you energy for. It's all mental. So I think stress, PCOS, of course, because PCOS, as we know, it's a lot of hormonal fluctuation. Actually, recently we had patient, hemoglobin A1C is fine. So the most important is to see is fasting insulin. So when we have fasting insulin, when we know their hemoglobin A1C is fine, we know their blood sugars are fine post meals. So why they are not losing weight? Why they are not in that fat burning zone? So when we look at the data and we can tell them, hey, these are some of the changes in the blood sugar or the meal plan or the stress or the exercise. One more questions, when I am talking about the exercise part, what I have seen, stressed women, when they exercise more, I see their blood sugar rise more. So I just tell them to walk. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I'm like, just walk and stabilize your blood sugar and just start to lose weight. Am I right in terms of exercise? And like for many of them, not for all of them, but this is what I have seen to bring their cortisol level down. I'm like, don't stress yourself. Strength training is important, but you don't have to be in the gym 2 hours every single day for 5 days a week.
I think it's strategy. I think it's balance and strategy, and also what your body is used to, right? So for women who are already strength training regularly, this is something that their body has become accustomed to. It's not crazy to be working out at the more intense levels. Same thing with endurance sports, right? If you are working your way up in terms of your training plan and you're gradually increasing intensity, that's pretty standard protocol, and it's not going to be excessive stress on the body. But for people who are not eating enough, they're not fueling well, they're not balancing their nutrition, they're not sleeping well, they're going to the gym excessively, they're pushing themselves too hard, that's where we see issues. So I think it's okay to push yourself physically. We just have to make sure we're balancing that with proper balanced nutrition, getting adequate recovery, sleep, stress management, kind of, that holistic approach that I think all of us are so fond of. That's, I think, going to be essential in making sure that things are regulated.
So do you think things like meditation or breathing, or can they do that in combination with their strength training? So because we know that muscle mass is important because that's what's going to help them burn the fat. But in terms of if you have to give me a ratio, do you have a recommendation on activity because CGM tracks your activity, and I know it will be more personalized, but just in terms of stress, walking and strength, how many times a week strength training, how many times a week cardio, do you have any of those set for your plan?
I think it's very, very individual in terms of what that ratio would be. Generally, for a lot of my clients, I encourage them to walk on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be a fast walk. It's just a walk, and almost treating that as a little bit of meditative time. Just breathe, walk, get those steps in, get a little bit movement. And especially if you live in somewhere like Michigan or Toronto where the weather's shit, maybe looking into a walking pad so you have something at home or a treadmill. Yes, you can totally go outside still if you're someone that you love to go out in the snow, totally. For a lot of my clients, I usually say if you're trying to build up your muscle mass, trying to make sure we're getting strength training in at least 2 to 3 days of the week. I think cardio, it depends on whether you're more trying to build your endurance or whether you're trying to improve your cardiovascular health. I think the cardio one, it's walking daily, strength training. And then I think, Terry, you can add into this, but I think the endurance one is one that's a little more of an asterisk, that it's so individualized.
Yeah. Well, I think the key factor, if we're just thinking about optimizing health. We're not thinking about running a marathon or competing in a triathlon or doing any of those things. If we're just thinking about optimizing our health, we have to lift weights. We have to do it at least 2 days a week.
Okay, 2 days a week.
Ideally,
that's what I was saying.
But, at least 2 days a week. So walking, that's a staple. We're humans. We should walk. It's natural movement. Every human should be walking. And then when it comes to cardiovascular fitness, we need to get our heart rate elevated at least a couple of times a week.
I know in Canada, Health Canada says 150 minutes a week is kind of like the guideline in terms of like getting your heart rate at least into like the zone 3 territory is what they recommend. Obviously, if you're doing more high intensity, it would be a little bit less, but that's kind of like what they would recommend. So kind of spacing that out throughout the week, I mean. That's the guidelines.
In the US, the guidelines are lumped together. So they say it's like a certain, I think it's 150 minutes a week, 300 if you want additional health benefits. 150 is the minimum. And they say like moderate to intense. And you can do like a mixture. But then there's kind of like an asterisk that says making sure that you're getting strength training in each week. I think they say 2 to 3 sessions each week. They don't specify an amount of time.
And I was going to add on, like, I know, Shivani, you and I have talked a lot about this. And I think we touched on it in other sessions, especially because we just talked about building muscle mass in a very recent episode, is why is it important to build muscle mass? And I think one of the main things is like, if you're building that muscle mass, that's going to act as a glucose sponge. Basically, if we're trying to focus on kind of like stabilizing our blood glucose a lot more, having a little more muscle mass is actually going to help with managing our blood glucose a lot better because it's going to be sucking up the sugar into your muscles, and especially like stimulating the muscle mass after you eat, especially if you have a big meal, is going to be really helpful in managing blood glucose as well.
Yeah. And if we think about energy production too, right? Like if you have more muscle mass and if you're in better shape, your body becomes more efficient at actually producing energy, making literal ATP. And so obviously, getting into better shape is going to be supportive of how you feel on a daily basis as well, because you're just going to be more efficient at doing every little daily task that you want to do, whether that's exercise or just using your brain.
Is there signs or symptoms, or like you share some physical signs and symptoms of like, if someone doesn't have a CGM or doesn't have access to a CGM, what are some signs that they could kind of like look out for if their blood sugars are really unstable?
So, we talk about hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia all the time, but we use those terms mainly for people who have diabetes. But when I see, I tell people, especially, when they are not wearing a CGM, they can see if they are feeling tired and groggy, or they are feeling dizzy, or they have headaches. We can use actually a finger stick, because I have seen also that, yes, diabetes is a problem, but then hypoglycemia is a bigger problem as well, because people don't realize. And a lot of time when they are trying to diet, eat less, I want to lose weight, they are not realizing that, first of all, they're going to get into metabolic adaptation where their body is just going to stop burning the body fat. So there's no point in eating less. But then more than that, their blood sugar drops and they can get dizzy, they can even faint. So I think irritability would be like one of the symptoms, and headache and fatigue and moodiness. They can, at that time, maybe if they have a finger prick, they can just check it and see if they're getting hypoglycemic. But then frequent urination also with hyperglycemia or higher blood sugar. So there's so many factors. And what I have also seen when we talk about hypo and hyperglycemia, a lot of these symptoms overlap. It just means that their blood sugar is unstable. It's going high very quickly and down. And there's so many factors, the nutrition factors and the lifestyle factors that actually affect their blood sugar throughout the day. So to answer your question, the irritability and dizziness and not having energy to do anything, even if you are very inflamed or if you see inflammation is one of your problems, it could be because of high blood sugars throughout the day as well. In fact, although it's not a sign that you have to watch for, but higher blood sugars or imbalanced blood sugar can also lead to poor gut health. I see that all the time in my practice because I do a lot of gut health. If you're feeding your bad gut microbiome, if your gut microbiome is not balanced, it's going to just control the whole GLP-1 pathway. And we all know with all the use of the GLP-1 is actually released in the gut, not by your pancreas, but in the gut. And to have that GLP-1 functioning, you need to eat. Of course, the dosage of the GLP-1 medication is way higher than what we naturally produce in our gut. It's very low. It's like 10 times higher for the medication. But at the same time, you can fuel your gut with fiber and activate the GLP-1 and just make sure you're feeding the good gut bacteria. So imbalance of the blood sugar, poor gut health, it could be one of the signs, and you have to see all the other factors as well. You can't pinpoint just for the gut health.
I'm glad that you brought up gut health, because I think that that's an important variable. It touches on almost every aspect of our physiological health. So I think that that's really important. On the topic of yeast overgrowth, is that something that you test people for?
So yes, I do the gut microbiome testing. So we do the candida testing in our clinic, but then we have some clients also where their doctor is testing and then they come to us. Mm-hmm. So both ways. But I do the GI map testing, and in that you can figure out different, bacteria, viruses, candida, pathogens, and a lot of other things. And that gives you a very good pictures about their gut health.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I was curious about that, how you're seeing that correlation. I want to switch gears and talk about the actual CGM itself, because I realize that there's probably some people who are like, what the heck are you talking about CGMs right now? And so let's talk about what a continuous glucose monitor is. Let's talk about how it works and maybe how long clients actually wear it. Let's kind of break down what a CGM is.
Sure, definitely. CGM is like a small device. It's called continuous glucose monitor. As the name suggests, it's continuously monitoring your blood glucose level. Now, the only difference is when we do the finger prick, you test the blood. But in this case, your glucose is tested in the interstitial fluid every few minutes, and that sends the signal to the app on your phone, and that shows you how your blood sugars are right now or throughout the day. So there could be a little bit of lag, like 5 to 10, 15 minutes lag sometimes, the way you see it on the app. But basically, all CGM is doing, it's a monitor that's monitoring your blood sugar throughout the day. And usually most of the apps have the ability where you could write down what you're eating throughout the day, your exercise, your daily hydration. Hydration, by the way, I forgot to mention, is a very big factor in terms of how your blood sugar may be fluctuating throughout the day as well. So usually CGM is worn 10 to 14 days. After 14 days, you have to change the CGM monitor. For my clients, I can set their readings and I can tell them, hey, your range should be in this. Like usually we recommend, if you are not diabetic, it should be between 70 to 140. And if you're diabetic, those ranges are different, but we are just talking about non-diabetic population right now. So that gives us a range in terms of it should not drop below 70 and it should not go higher than 140. But then initially when they come in, their blood sugars are actually higher, like 160, 180, 190, but they're not diabetic.
For the Canadian listeners out there, it's 3.9 to 7.8. I was just kind of like, can't remember what the measurements are, because 70 to 140 for the milligrams per deciliter. And then for any Canadian listeners, that's 3.9 to 7.8 millimoles per liter.
That's good to know.
I didn't know that you used a different unit in Canada for that.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
Studying for the US dietitian's exam and relearning all of my measurements for everything. Nothing is in the same measurement standard at all. All the blood work, all the glucose.
Summer had to do that when she was studying in Australia, and she said it was so hard.
But hers would be going from the US because we use the same measurement system in Canada as Australia. So she did it in the opposite way of me. Is there any supposed food that people call healthy that cause large spikes that you've seen in your practice?
Oh my gosh, there's so many factors that actually drives your blood glucose level, and there are food factors and there are lifestyle factors. There is no one magic food. So we have three macros. I call four actually, but we have three macros, right? Carbohydrate, fats, and protein. But we never talk about fiber. We cannot tell people, hey, you just eat lettuce, spinach, and broccoli bowl and stabilize your blood sugar, right? So there is no magic food. But if I have to tell like one thing, I just tell them, hey, make PFF your BFF. Make protein, fat, and fiber your best friends forever. And that's going to stabilize your blood sugar. Again, so many factors are affecting the blood sugar. So depending upon the combinations of food, how you're eating, what time you're eating, even how fast and slow you are eating, all those things can affect your blood sugar levels.
I know with a few of the clients, one thing that was really shocking for people was fruit. People have this health halo around fruit that this is healthy. I can eat unlimited amount. And I remember having one client that I had a conversation with through the MM30 that we talked about fruit consumption. And that they described to me what their evening snack was. It was this 3-cup bowl of melons that they were having. And we were looking at their blood glucose reading and I'm like, hey, we're going to get a giant spike and then a giant dip in the middle of the night and then a spike first thing in the morning. I'm like, they're like, but it's healthy. It's fruit. It's still carbs. It's still if we're not balancing it, it's going to cause a lot of volatility.
Same thing I have seen with oatmeal. This is practically I am talking to them. I'm looking at their data. 2 people together. We had a group coaching call and we were talking about oatmeal. And I'm like, yes, oatmeal is healthy. But then if you see if you're not balancing oatmeal is carbs. If you're not balancing with protein and fat, you are going to see that spike. So I'm not denying that oatmeal is not good, but you just have to balance it out with fat and protein so you can stabilize your blood sugar exactly like with the fruit.
And that is the big takeaway that I think I want all of our listeners to soak in here. It's not that fruit is bad. It's not that oatmeal is bad. It's not that you should avoid eating oatmeal. You should avoid eating fruit at all. It's about the strategy of how you consume those foods. So if you're consuming oatmeal plain on its own, or a big pile of fruit on its own, yes, that could cause your blood sugar to go up. But if you're balancing that out with some protein and some fat, you're a lot more likely to minimize that blood sugar spike. So strategy, not omission. We don't want to make you afraid of these healthy foods or have you cutting them out of your diet. That's not the answer here.
Yeah. I love that strategy, not omission, because it's not this or nothing mentality. I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do it at all. I'm going to eat my birthday cake. Oh, I'm going to just stop eating sweets. I don't believe in just stopping your life because you're trying to be healthy. You're healthy. Being healthy means having balance, variety, and moderation. It's not just, okay, today I'm just going to stop everything because I am on this diet. No, do something that is more sustainable, that is more livable, that's something you can follow long term.
I love that. And that actually ties very well into just this concept of CGMs, paying attention to your blood sugar and your relationship with food, because I find that sometimes, as much as we all love data, sometimes that fear can become a barrier when it comes to CGM use. And they're watching their blood sugars and they're paying attention to the graph and they see their blood sugar go up and they panic and they're stressed out. And it actually starts to become more of a negative thing in their life than a positive thing. And Alicia is pointing to herself.
Yeah.
Yes,
Alicia, share.
I was having such major issues with my CGM, and I'm a practitioner, so I can imagine that some people, I have heard of clients and people using CGMs without the guidance of a dietitian, without somebody external helping them look at the data. And I can totally understand why that could make them really anxious and overly restrictive. Because I know for myself, I was using it during a period where I was training a lot and I was actually getting ready for a race. And it made me feel super anxious and actually led me to undereat and underfuel because I wasn't liking the volatility that I was seeing. And so I found for me, it wasn't necessarily helping me. And we'll talk a little bit about who maybe shouldn't you be using them. But I think it is really good to consider that, how do we actually, that's a really good question that I have. How do we prevent the data from the exercise and the food, the data from the CGM from causing food fear or the desire to be perfect? How do we use that? How do we prevent that?
Like a data anxiety.
Yeah, data anxiety.
Yeah, data anxiety. So first, the most important thing, work with a practitioner. Work with a practitioner is the most important thing. It's like me going to a doctor and getting all my labs done. Now I have access to all my lab results. And I am just self-interpreting the data that, doctor could maybe say, hey, no, this is not that bad actually. This is okay. But in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I know. I can just Google, I can just do things. And I think this is the biggest mistake. Because first of all, having a coach or having a dietitian on board when you're wearing a CGM, before I even give the CGM to people, I explain it to them what to expect, what not to look at, how not to be afraid. And it's okay to be seeing high and low dips because this is why they are here. They are here to learn. I'm not there to judge them. Oh my gosh, how did you do that? No, they are here for help. And we are there to help them. And in fact, I did my own CGM. I was like eating all this Indian food. I'm like, oh my gosh, this Indian food is so bad. Look at the data here. So it's just being real, just being more accepting and just letting clients know that it is okay to see the up and downs. And when they do another round or another 15 days, I think it's very important. The question not to have data anxiety is by working with a practitioner who can guide you, who can hold your hands and say, hey, it's okay. It's okay. You can go for ice cream,
I like the idea of kind of approaching the data with curiosity, like you were alluding to. Like, I think if we look at it from with a practitioner as our partner, right? If we look at it from that mindset of curiosity rather than good or bad, it's not like you're getting an F on a test or something if your blood sugar goes up or if it goes down really low or whatever. It's like,
exactly.
Okay, let's be curious about this. Let's ask questions. Let's learn about our bodies here rather than like freaking out over the
or putting yourself down for the choices that you're making. Well, I also let them know, hey, you are coming for help because you want to learn. So if you are just say, they are eating oatmeal every day with berries and they think that is the healthiest option out there, which yes, oatmeal is healthy, berries is healthy. They don't know the second part of balancing the blood sugar, that they need to pair it with protein and fat. And I have done this without the CGM data. I have been telling people, no, you have to combine. No, but they won't because they think oatmeal with berries is good enough. I don't have to do anything. But once they saw their data, now suddenly they have boiled eggs with their oatmeal. Suddenly they have Greek yogurt with their oatmeal and they can see the data, the spike in the blood sugar is stable. And this is something that now they have learned for life.
In terms of people who maybe should not use the CGM, there are a lot of people out there who love data, but as we talked about, sometimes it can be anxiety provoking. Are there specific populations that you're like, you know what, maybe let's try to manage blood sugar without the data?
Yes, absolutely. My number one pick would be people with eating disorders. Like if you have a diagnosis for eating disorders or even disordered eating or the fear of eating, or if you're underweight, you're not even thinking about it. But mostly eating disorder patients are people who have more anxiety, who are very anxious. They should not be using the CGM because if anything, it's going to give them more anxiety. And of course, with athletes, as Alicia was saying, you can say more about athletes, Alicia, who should use the CGM in athletic world or no?
Yeah. Tara and I were talking about this a little bit kind of prior to the recording today, and we were kind of coming to the consensus that like it may not be the best fit for athletes to use it, or if they're using it, making sure they have someone that's guiding it. And we're taking kind of the numbers into a grain of salt that we are going to have a lot more fluctuation. Like if you're having really hard training sessions, you might be going high. You might be dealing with some lows. Like we are kind of chasing some numbers. And I know, Shivani, you and I were talking about like, oh, are we going to do a course on CGMs and athletes? And there's not a lot of courses that exist because it's not really as helpful as a tool for athletes. Tara, have you ever used them with an athlete before?
So I have had athletes come to me who were already using a CGM and wanted to learn about it and optimize blood sugar a little bit better. I've never advised an athlete to use one. And I think the main problem that we see with athletes and CGMs is that athletes oftentimes are under fueling. The biggest challenge is getting athletes to consume enough. And frequently it's getting athletes to consume enough carbohydrate. And so because CGMs have us very hyper-focused on blood sugar balance and very hyper-focused on carbohydrate specifically, sometimes it can be challenging to help coach an athlete through using a CGM because it starts to demonize carbohydrates a little bit and they start to worry about consuming carbs. And now suddenly we're under consuming, we're under fueling, we're not performing well. And a lot of times too, as athletes typically do, we're using fuel that is pure carbohydrate. Like we're sucking down gels and goos and stuff. If you're an ultra runner, you're probably eating gummy bears out on the trail. We're eating these foods regularly. And if we're using a CGM, I feel like that's just going to deter people from fueling in a way that we know is very, very effective. And so I oftentimes will not recommend CGMs for my athlete populations just because it's like, I don't want anything getting in the way of our fueling strategy that could make people afraid to consume carbohydrates at the level that they need to. Not to say that no athlete should ever use one, but I feel like for the majority of athletes, it's probably not the recommended strategy.
Yeah, good to know. Because, it's going to affect their performance as well, right?
And that's the number one priority really with athletes. It's like health and performance. We want optimal performance and we want to do it in the healthiest way possible. And we don't want like anything to take away from that. So
I think that's really good to know, like for the people that are athletes that are not using not recommending to use CGMs, but for the basic population or the healthy population, or like people that are non-diabetic or diabetic that are wanting to be more mindful of balancing blood glucose, but maybe they're not ready to kind of take that step towards using a CGM. What are some foundational habits that they can prioritize first when they're trying to focus on stabilizing blood glucose?
So, the number one habit, stop skipping meals. Stop skipping meals and always start your day with some protein, fat, and fiber. So we call it like a blueprint to balance your blood sugars. And I'm just going to give some pointers for people, whether you are using a CGM, you can see it in the real time, how it's affecting your blood sugar. Or you can, if you're not using the CGM, then also you can see the difference in your health. Number one, not eating naked carbs. As we were talking about earlier, like just eating a fruit bowl or just having an oatmeal. Now, oatmeal or fruit, they both are not bad. It's just how we eat them can affect your blood sugar. So the second point from there comes making PFF your BFF, making protein, fat, and fiber your best friends forever. So how can you make that oatmeal, which is a carb, fruit, which is a carb, and add a little bit more protein and fiber? You can add 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. You can add some flax meal. You can add some Greek yogurt to your oatmeal or on the side, or you can make an omelet. So adding more protein and having healthy fat will stabilize your postprandial blood sugar. If you see there is a spike, if you are using a CGM, or even if you're not using a CGM, when you eat a meal, I always tell people, eat and walk. Don't eat and sit. Because eating and walking after the meal will stabilize your postprandial or after the meal blood sugar that can actually helps you have more balanced blood sugars throughout the day and not see the roller coaster ride. Another thing, liquid versus solid carbs, or the fast versus slow carbs that we talk about. You want to eat fruit, you don't want to drink the juice. A lot of time people ask me, can I just do juicing? Well, you could do vegetable juicing, and that too, eating vegetables is better, but vegetable juicing have different effects. But I would not recommend drinking a fruit juice. I would tell you, hey, eat a bowl of fruit, maybe have an avocado with it, maybe have some cottage cheese with it, maybe having a cottage cheese bowl with some fruit, and maybe have some chia seeds on top of it. So making a combination, again, PFF. So making protein, fat, and fiber your best friends forever, and not eating the carbs that turn into glucose very quickly. So simple carbohydrates like fruits or sugar or honey or maple syrup, all these things will convert into sugar within 30 minutes. You want something more sustainable versus if you take some beans or lentils for carbohydrates, they are going to be staying there for 1.5 hours. Now, if you take protein, it's even longer, 3 hours, and fat will stay longer in your gut and you may feel more full for a longer period of time. But we're talking about healthy fats and we are not talking about fried foods. So just a disclaimer there. You can just incorporate these habits in your daily routine. Walking after the meals, walking throughout the day, as well as you were recommended that every human should be walking. I love that. I'm going to use that because walking helps to stabilize the blood sugar. Having a good quality of sleep, because disrupted sleep can also affect your blood sugar. I actually focus a lot on meditation techniques because a lot of time what's driving their blood sugar or higher cortisol level is stress. And if they can start meditating, I usually recommend just 5 minutes in the morning or before they go to bed or even throughout the day. If they have time to meditate, they can use Calm app, Headspace, and there are so many of them that they can use. But simplest way I can describe meditation is sit down and do nothing. Can you just sit down and just do nothing, not check your phone? Just sit down, breathe, and set an alarm on your phone for 5 minutes. See if you can pass 5 minutes without looking on your phone. These meditation techniques are going to help you balance. Yes, it will reduce your cortisol and your stress level, even blood pressure, but it will help to balance your blood sugar as well. These are little micro habits that you can incorporate in your daily lives, whether you're using a CGM or not using a CGM.
I love the mindfulness piece, and especially around like day-to-day mindfulness, right? We talked a little bit about walking meditation, which is killing two birds with one stone. Gotta love the multitasking there. And also in the actual process of eating, slowing down, actually not looking at your phone while you're eating, enjoying the process of eating, winding down and relaxing when you're having a meal instead of just rushing through it so that you can finish up those emails or, get on to the next thing. I think all of that is really important too, especially because, as you mentioned, cortisol does play a role in our blood sugar regulation. And I think that piece of it is really critical and oftentimes overlooked for a lot of people. We're busy, we're trying to optimize our health, we're doing the best we can, we're rushing to the gym, we're rushing home. We're never slowing down. And that is also going to be one of those variables that's so critical.
Actually, scientific studies and data have shown that people who eat very fast and quickly, you can see, of course, their whole blood sugar disruption. But overall, if you can take few breaths, like deep breaths before, and calm down your vagus nerve, which connects to your digestive system and everything, the vagus nerve connection, the gut-brain connection. Actually, if you take few breaths and calm down a little bit and then start your meal, that's going to have a very big effect on your blood sugar level as well.
I always challenge a lot of my clients to be like, choose one meal a day to have it be completely undistracted. Even just because for most people, it's like they're on their phone, they're on their emails every single meal of the day, they're watching TV in the evening. Challenge yourself. Even if you're eating on your own, just be present. That will help benefit us so much more in the long term.
So Shivani, can you tell us a little bit about the group programs that you offer, the MM30, and then also, of course, how our listeners can connect with you if they're interested in getting in touch?
Absolutely. So we have been running MM30 program, which stands for Metabolism Marathon, for 30 days. So basically, it just takes 30 days for a metabolic reset with the real-time data using the CGM. And with one-on-one dietitian coaching. So basically, it's a 30-day program where once you purchase the program, you get the CGM to your doorstep, and you also get access to the portal where you have a lot of education about how to balance your blood sugars, all the tips and tricks. You also have what kind of exercise and how to exercise. And then we also have recorded videos of exercises that you can do at home. But other than that, you have one-on-one appointments with our dietitians. So you have appointment with me and Alicia, who is also a registered dietitian and a personal trainer. And you also get all the meal plans. So you are not scrambling for recipes. There's a lot inside the program. And you can go to rightfoodchoice.com and click on Metabolism Marathon Program.
Thank you so much, Shivani, for being here. This was a very valuable conversation. I think we touched on a lot of important aspects of blood sugar management with or without a CGM, mindfulness, pairing meals, meal timing, eating behaviors, exercise, sleep, stress, so many different factors. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, listeners, also for joining us. As always, make sure to like, to follow, to share this with a friend if you found it helpful. And thanks for listening to the Nutrition Digest podcast.